But it is draft day, Shasky, and this is the 8th NFL draft for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. Their 8th NFL draft together, and it's gone by. I mean, it feels like 3 years. Can you remember their first draft ever when we're at the Fox Theater of Spinoni? And Shasky, I know you were watching that draft, and it's, the Niners on the clock at number 2. They trade down with the Chicago Bears and go to number 3. And the first ever pick for Shanahan and Lynch became Solomon Thomas. It was Solomon Thomas. And they had a lot of misses in that draft. Whether it's Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Kellen Witherspoon, C.J. Beathard, Joe Williams, Trent Taylor, Adrian Colbert. But they did find George Kittle. They did find DJ Jones.
Adrian Colbert was a hit. He started for you for 1 year. He's a 7th-round pick.
It was all right.
Okello was kind of a...
The guys who popped was George Kittle 5th round and DJ Jones 6th round. They were okay.
Like 5th and 6th and 7th rounders, if they start for you for a year or two,
yeah, that's fine.
You've done pretty well.
Okay, fine, fair,
but whatever.
Fair. The next year you get Fred Warner.
Yeah,
he's a generational talent.
Yeah, grand slam.
Grand slam. So they've got Nick Bosa. They've got Deebo Samuel. They've had some hits. They've had some misses.
How do you evaluate the Mike McGlinchey from that draft?
Didn't pan out well, but he gave you 5 years. It's a whiff in the grand scheme of things, but you know what? He got paid. And did he kill you?
No.
He didn't kill you.
It's just terrible value where they got him, given all the guys around him. But yeah, I know. I'm just curious.
You needed the right tackle. They identified the right tackle. I don't think I was, at the time of the pick, I wasn't angry about it. I was like, Derwin James was there, but whatever. But
I didn't like trading Trent Brown at the time.
Yeah, Trent Brown was good. He ends up winning the Super Bowl with the Patriots, but you know what? The Niners were able to have success despite the pick. But you look at all these picks, and as we enter today, and they have the number 31 pick in the first round. And today's the first round. It starts at 5 p.m., Shasky. And we have the Brandon Aiyuk rumors. Will he stay? Will he go? Will the Niners trade him? Will they move up? Will they go after Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU? Will they go try to get the Mitchell kid from Texas? What are they going to do with the line? What are they going to do? But I guess my question is to start the show, 888-957-9570. With everything going on with Brandon Aiyuk and everything going on with Brock Purdy and possibly resetting the quarterback market next season, if you see this team lose in Las Vegas in the Super Bowl, but considering where they were in 2017 to where the 49ers are now, that was an expansion team. Now they're one of the powers in the NFL. Has Lynch and Shanahan earned your trust to make decisions like trading Brandon Aiyuk? At the end of the day, do you trust Lynch and Shanahan to make the right play, to make the right decision? They have a lot of evidence that prove that we should trust them, Shasky.
I mean, I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. And I would say, for my money, the biggest move that they made was sticking to their gut and staying with Brock Purdy and trading away Trey Lance and moving off Jimmy Garoppolo. And riding with Brock Purdy coming off of that elbow injury. That a lot of different teams, I think, would have reverted back to going to somebody else because you drafted him, somebody else like Jimmy who was a winner. I mean, people forget before Jimmy got injured and before Brock came on, there was an argument Jimmy was playing his best ball at the time after making that trade for CMC. So I think they've clearly earned the benefit of the doubt. They're one of the high-level teams in the NFL. Even if I just take away 2019, just look what they've done the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I think they've done a great job utilizing their compensation to get proven players. But now is the time that they need to utilize their draft compensation to move up to get the right guys to fill out the rest of this roster. I think this is a monster day for the organization.
With everything they've done in terms of free agent signings, in terms of the quarterback roulette, in terms of the decision to draft a Deebo and draft a George Kittle and to pay George Kittle and to pay Deebo Samuel, to pay Fred Warner, to trade Buckner, draft Kinlaw, to let DJ Jones walk, to let Kwan walk, to let Jimmy Ward walk, to drafting Hufanga, to drafting Jair Brown. Has Lynch and Shanahan earned your trust out there, 49er fans? And at the end of the day, when I think about this Brandon Aiyuk situation, because who knows what the hell's going to happen today, I think everything's on the table. I'm prepared for him to leave. I'm prepared to basically welcome in the draft compensation they could get for Brandon Aiyuk. I've just got there. I don't want to trade him. I want him here for a long, long time. I think he's been very, very good for the 49ers. But if they do trade him, I have to sit back, Shasky, and at the end of the day say, you know what? I trust Kyle Shanahan and I trust John Lynch to put together a football team that could compete at the highest level.
Haven't they done that? Like the last 2 years in particular, what has been the narrative around the league by the talking heads who do this nationally? The Niners have one of the most talented rosters on the planet. Hasn't that always been it?
I don't know what the national narrative is. I just look at it and say, yes, they do have one of the most talented rosters out there.
I mean, they've got Pro Bowlers across the board, right? I mean, forget the fullback because I know a lot of teams don't have fullback. One of the best tight ends in the league. At the time, they had the two dynamic wide receivers that a lot of teams would love to have. I say 25-plus teams would love to have their combination of wide receivers. They got one of the best left tackles in the game. They got the best running back in the game, hands down. On defense, they've got arguably a top 3, 4 defensive end, top 2 linebacker. They've got promising young safeties. They have a guy who had a monster year last year at cornerback in Charvarius Ward in terms of interceptions. I think they've got playmakers galore. Drake Greenlaw got hurt, but Drake Greenlaw and Fred Warner make one of the most nasty linebacker combinations of all time in a Niner uniform. So the way I'm looking at this is they have well exceeded how to build a roster. And now we could argue about all the missed draft picks. Every team misses draft picks, even the greatest of all greats. You look at all the teams, they're going to have misses left and right. But this one's a big one for them. Like they've kind of shifted the last 3 or 4 years, and they've traded a lot of their compensation to get proven players. Now's the time they're going to go in the reverse direction, which is trade a proven player if they end up doing it. And they're going to have to hit on these draft picks. The Alex Smith trade comes to mind till I'm blue in the face. What sent Balky down a tailspin? Everyone goes, they drafted a bunch of ACL guys. Yeah, they did. And they also had a 3 or 4 draft picks from the Alex Smith trade, and they traded down into 5, and none of them materialized. Corey Lemonnier and all of that, Carlos Hyde, none of them materialized. And that's why Bulky's gone. They had a chip in Alex Smith. They traded it away. They turned it into a bunch of picks, and none of those picks materialized. You got to hit on picks.
With Shanahan and Lynch not hitting on a Trey Lance pick, I could see why a lot of people say, you know what, I don't trust John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. If you move off Brandon Aiyuk, a proven commodity, a 1,300-yard wide receiver, I could see why some fans may say, we don't trust Lynch and Shanahan to make the right decision. They've won despite them making bad decisions, terrible decisions. The Trey Lance pick still has a lot of people up in arms. The Jimmy Garoppolo signing still has a lot of people up in arms. Hell, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's a segment of fans who still don't quite trust Brock Purdy yet to be the franchise quarterback. That's still out there. Now, you can call him delusional all you want to, but it's still out there. We still have to see it for another year. That's what some 49er fans are saying. I'm not saying that. The guys played well. Guys played at a high level. I have no problem with Brock Purdy being a starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, when it comes to money next season, we'll see how that looks and whether or not that's going to be, whether or not they overpay him or whatnot. Let's see how this year looks. But there are some people who say, you know what? You traded Buckner and you drafted Kinlaw, and we're still looking for a defensive tackle. The trickle-down effect of taking Solomon Thomas, that's still affecting his team. You trade Buckner, you don't trade Armstead, now they're all gone. Thomas, Kinlaw, Buckner, and freaking Armstead. But have they done enough to earn your trust? And when it comes to earning your trust, it means living with the fact that they may trade Brandon Aiyuk. And Brandon Aiyuk may be looking for $30 million a year. He may be looking for $50 million guaranteed, $70 million guaranteed. Who the hell knows the number? But if they decide to trade Brandon Aiyuk, have they done enough to earn your trust? Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Now, there's a lot of executives that have left, right? Rand Carthon's now in Tennessee. Adam Peters is now in Washington. You've lost multiple assistant coaches. Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans, Mike McDaniel, Hell Slowick is down there in Houston. He's calling that offense. Steve Wilks. There you go, Steve Wilks, doesn't have a job right now. But a lot of people will say maybe Adam Peters was the guy. So that's why this draft is so important. Lynch has to put his stamp on it. There's no Adam Peters. There's no Rand Carthon. We're all going to be looking at him when it comes to this draft pick saying, this is your draft, John Lynch. There's no doubt about it. You're the man. There's no question marks on whether or not, is Aiyuk a Lynch guy or a Peters guy or a Shanahan guy. No. It's Lynch and Shanahan. But have they done enough to earn your trust? Have they done enough? Because there's some people who say, no, they haven't. And this Aiyuk decision could make people jump off that ledge and say, oh, man, they've lost me. They're done.
Let me ask you this one. Just hypothetically, they score a touchdown and Mahomes doesn't at the end of that Super Bowl, or they hold Mahomes after getting the field goal in overtime and they win the Super Bowl. Is there any question, or are people still losing their minds regarding Brandon Aiyuk being traded? Or do we trust them more or less because of a couple of plays difference?
I think so. I think there's no question about it. We're like Lynch and Shanahan. They're gods out here. Shanahan wins one Super Bowl. If he would have won that Super Bowl last season, people would have placed him ahead of George Seifert. That's how big that moment was. That's how big that game was. Who would have placed him above George Seifert? John Lynch could have done no wrong. And whether or not they trade Brandon Aiyuk, think people would have been like, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. We'll find somebody else. We've got a Super Bowl. Why pay him?
Yeah, but I hear you. And I think you're right. No, I think you're right. But I would push back and be like, God, the margins are so thin. Think of how good they were, and they came up just slightly short because the margins are so thin. A bounce here, a bounce there. And all of a sudden now you give them all the credibility in the world. Like, to me, I think they've more than earned it. I just look at their track record the last 3 years in particular, and just the body of work overall and what they inherited. And they've built one of the best rosters in the game. And there's misses, and there's some big misses. But for all the misses, there's also random ones like Talanoa Hufanga, who came out of nowhere lately and was an all-pro. Aaron Banks, who was an excellent, selection that they sat on that we didn't think would even be able to play. And then I think like the random ones, like kind of more under the radar, like Colton McKivitz, they were right about that.
Yep.
Jake Brendel out of nowhere, they were right about that. I didn't even know who those guys were.
What about Diamondor Lenore, fifth-round pick?
Another guy who's going to have to get paid at the end of this year, right? Or wants to get paid.
Elijah Mitchell, sixth-round pick.
Exactly. Like we can go up and down. I mean, look, the kicker pick was scrutinized, and at the end of the year, the kicker wasn't the problem.
No, he was great.
I'm laughing.
Jake Moody and Mitch Wisnowski.
It wasn't a problem.
You got kickers for the next 10 years.
I mean, in the Super Bowl, just think about this. They win that Super Bowl. There was an argument Jawan Jennings could have been the Super Bowl MVP. He's a seventh-round pick.
Yep.
So I struggle when the margins are so thin and you're so close to the ultimate goal to say that they have zero credibility when you've clearly built one of the most successful organizations in the sport.
Yep. 888-957-9570. Swell said there, they've hit on these low-round picks, the kicker situation. I remember Wisnowski when he got drafted. Everybody was losing their mind. I'm thinking, I like taking punters and kickers in the middle of the rounds. If they're good, I know I got a player for the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
I got control of a player who I know can kick, can trust. And I think Jake Moody will still have his naysayers.
He was shaky, but he
in the Super Bowl, 250-plus yard kicks.
And in the rain in both the Green Bay and the Detroit game.
No doubt. He bounced back in the second half.
Why are you smiling?
I'm just but everyone's going to think of the PAT that was missed, blocked.
That was that was huge.
That was
huge.
I mean,
that was massive.
It's also offensive line.
Yeah. Offensive line. Dude. 888-957-9570. The trust with Shanahan and Lynch. Is it there for you? And two, Brandon Aiyuk. Because that's, we see the video last night, Shasky. He's dancing after Amon-Ra St. Brown gets a $77 million contract. I know, Lubman. I know.
Make sure you don't miss that break.